Number 10. Alexa's Revenge. Depending on where you stand, Philippa Copleston Warren is either a crazy ex-girlfriend who snapped or simply a woman scorned who took her rightful revenge. 46-year-old Philippa managed to access the Amazon ecosystem of her former boyfriend at his home over 100 miles away from her. She used the application to scream obscenities at her ex-boyfriend and his new partner. According to what was said in court, she used the Amazon Echo to relay messages such as "get the F out" when his current girlfriend walked into the bedroom. But how all this got started is a little bizarre. Philippa left her dog in the care of her ex-boyfriend after it had gotten surgery. The ex-boyfriend agreed to let her use his home surveillance system and his Alexa Echo to keep track of the dog. But she did more than just look at her pet. She continued to access the systems, turning his lights on and off, sending threatening messages, and just being generally annoying. And then, in one final act of revenge, she posted a naked picture of him on his Facebook after hacking into it with the tagline, "Do I look fat?" Naturally, the ex-boyfriend was not impressed. He took the issue to court, got a restraining order effective for 7 years, and Philippa was sentenced to 3 months in prison. But even with his ex-girlfriend locked up, the victim has been left pretty traumatized, especially after having everyone on Facebook view him in the buff. Number 9. Late Night Break-In. A woman from Snowmass Village in Aspen broke into her former boyfriend's home in the middle of the night while he was there with his new girlfriend. In a completely bizarre show of psychotic behavior, she assaulted her ex-boyfriend, stole his new girlfriend's phone, and then ran away. This is pretty bizarre behavior for a 42-year-old woman. The ex-girlfriend is named Jamie Hovland, and she's been charged with felony criminal trespassing and misdemeanor assault. Her former boyfriend happened to be around 10 years younger than her, and since the incident, he's made it very clear to the press that their relationship is over and has been for a while. When she arrived at his home the night of the incident, she was extremely drunk. She beat on his front door, tried to break in through the sliding glass door, and even tried to climb in through one of the front windows. All these attempts failed, and so she eventually figured out how to pick the front door lock with a credit card. By this point, she was fuming. She went straight for her ex, punched him twice in the face, then rummaged through the purse of his new girlfriend and took her phone. Even more bizarre is that when the crazy ex-girlfriend was arrested, she told the police that she had been invited. But according to text messages sent from her ex-boyfriend's phone, he had actually told her, "Please leave me alone." If that's not a sign that things are over, I don't know what is. Number 8. The Ex-Girlfriend and the Hitman. Christopher Love was the hitman hired to kill Dr. Kendra Hatcher, a pediatric dentist. In 2018, the hitman was sentenced to death for capital murder. It took the jury only 3 hours to come up with the verdict. And while Love is waiting to be killed by lethal injection, the real mastermind behind the killing is still waiting for her trial. Even though it was technically Christopher Love who shot the dentist to death in the parking garage of her Dallas apartment building back in 2015, it was crazy ex Brenda Delgado who was behind the whole thing. To tell you a little more, we need to know the players. The woman who was murdered, Kendra Hatcher, was at the time dating Ricardo Paniagua. But before those two were dating, Ricardo was with Brenda Delgado. Brenda was extremely upset after the relationship ended. She wanted to get revenge on the man that she claims tossed her aside like a piece of trash. So, she exchanged drugs and money to Christopher Love for the life of her ex's new girlfriend. This is why everyone involved is probably going to be getting the death sentence. It wasn't a spontaneous crime, but a premeditated, pre-planned, cold-blooded murder. After the hitman was arrested, Brenda Delgado actually went on the run. She spent 6 months fleeing the authorities. She even hopped across the border to hide out in Mexico. But once she turned up on the FBI's most wanted list, she was quickly apprehended. Breakups are hard, but paying a hitman to murder your ex's new partner is pretty bizarre. Number 7. All the red lights. In China, you are not supposed to run red lights. You're not supposed to run red lights anywhere, but in China, it can get extremely expensive. Each red light that you run is documented and you're sent a very large bill for breaking the law. One woman used this rule to her advantage, using her ex-boyfriend's car to accumulate over 49 tickets. Apparently, she was bitter about the breakup, angry that her ex-boyfriend had a new girlfriend, and wanted to settle the score. It was actually quite a complex scheme. The ex-boyfriend was never going to give his car over to her, so she had a friend rent the car from her ex-boyfriend for a period of 2 days. In China, it's not that uncommon to rent out your vehicle for a bit of extra money when you're not using it. The renter was actually trying to get with the ex-girlfriend, but she refused and said she would only date him if he helped her in her insane revenge scheme. Within just 2 days, the pair had racked up 49 tickets for red lights, as well as a heap of other tickets for excessive speeding. But unfortunately for the angry ex, it didn't turn out quite the way she had hoped. Instead of her ex being stuck with a giant bill, she got busted for the scheme and was taken in by police. Do you think this was a clever act of revenge or extremely ridiculous? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Number 6. Shot at lunch. A woman in Brooklyn walked up to her ex, pulled a gun and placed it against her head and pulled the trigger, killing her. She then fled the scene. This was probably one of the most disturbing incidents in Brooklyn in 2021. Nichelle Thomas, 51 years old, was about to open the door and walk into her local bodega on the corner of St. Mark's Place. But before she could ever pull that door handle, her ex-girlfriend came out of nowhere and shot her dead. Nichelle Thomas was taken to Brooklyn Methodist Hospital where she was pronounced deceased. After all, gunshot wounds to the head at point-blank range are most often fatal. Considering the attacker, 38-year-old Letitia Bell, pulled the trigger in broad daylight, literally in the middle of lunch, she was identified and arrested very quickly. The police have since charged her with second-degree murder. Sadly, the police have yet to give Letitia's motive. We don't know what made her so angry that she would throw her life away by committing the most brazen daylight killing ever. We know that the two were dating, but they had been broken up for a while. They used to live together, and friends say they fought frequently. Whatever Letitia was holding a grudge about, it was evidently enough to kill and get herself thrown in jail, probably for the rest of her life. Number 5. Baby photos. A crazy ex-girlfriend has done something absolutely heinous. This woman not only harassed and threatened a pregnant woman, but she's also a fraud and a thief. Let's start with Drew Locke, 23 years old. She was forced to take action against the ex-girlfriend of her new partner after the ex stole pictures of her stillborn baby and made threats against her life. It all started back in 2011, when a guy named Ben left his girlfriend, Katie Ringer, and started chatting with Drew on the internet. The pair started dating, Drew got pregnant with twins, and at 9 weeks she suffered a miscarriage. One of the babies was gone and there was nothing she could do. And while grieving the loss of her child, Drew was also confronted with the vicious behavior of Ben's ex-girlfriend, Katie, who felt it was appropriate to call the grieving woman and tell her that she deserved losing her baby because she stole her man. Tragically, after 37 weeks, the second baby was stillborn and Drew was faced with loss all over again. But Katie did more than just harass Drew over the phone, and she refused to stop even after the second child was lost. She also stole scan pictures of the lost baby from Facebook and then used them to create a fake account of a woman allegedly also expecting a baby and then suffering a stillbirth. She used the pictures to create a whole new identity, even using the photos to create a GoFundMe account to pay for the supposed baby's funeral expenses. And amazingly, Katie managed to earn $3,000 from the fake account. And yet, this still wasn't enough chaos for Drew to endure. Katie got even crazier. She threatened that she would dig up the second child's grave and snap its little bones. She went so far as to visit the gravesite and trash it. This is scarier than any Halloween movie. Drew desperately needed help, but the police didn't seem to care. It wasn't until she made 27 complaints that the police finally took action, and Katie was sent to jail. She spent 18 months in rehabilitation, which hopefully was enough to allow her back out into society. I don't know. Where was Ben this whole time? Number 4. The Wedding Crasher. An ex-girlfriend still in love with her former flame made a bold decision to crash his wedding. This happened in China, when the woman showed up to the wedding dressed as the bride. Right in the middle of the ceremony, as the ex-boyfriend was about to be married to his new wife, the ex got down on her knees and begged him. She begged him to not only let her back into his life, but to marry her right there on the spot, instead of this new woman. It's hard to imagine this plan working out, but you have to give it to the crazy ex. It took a lot of guts to do that. She was obviously humiliated and embarrassed, especially when her plan didn't work. She then had to abandon the venue in shame, with her head down and her tail tucked beneath her expensive wedding dress. The one thing she did achieve was that the wedding was ruined. Even though the bride remained pretty calm during all the begging, she later walked off stage without actually getting married. Number 3. Capital murder. In Alabama, a jealous ex-girlfriend has been arrested by the police after carrying out a kidnapping plot. Demetria Johnson kidnapped and murdered a rival woman who was dating the father of her children. She went all the way to Georgia, kidnapped Tamika Skinner, took her back to Alabama, and then shot her dead. And amazingly, she was helped by 3 friends, all of whom have been arrested on charges of abetting murder. How exactly you convince one, never mind 3 friends, to go commit murder is beyond me. But that's what happened. These 3 guys actually broke into the house where the victim was living with the ex-boyfriend, roughed up the ex a little, then dragged the woman kicking and screaming into their car. When they finally got to Alabama, Tamika was killed and dumped in the woods. As for all the drama that ultimately led to the killing, Demetria was upset because Tamika was dating the man whom she had 2 children with. Demetria wanted the new woman out of the picture for good. According to Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor, it was an old-fashioned jealousy deal. Number 2. A crazy joyride. A woman from Michigan has gotten into serious trouble after trying to run over her ex-boyfriend. A wild scene began unfolding at 8:30 p.m. when the police received information that a pickup truck had been stolen from the Thompson Lake Boat Launch in Howell. The suspect and the vehicle were quickly identified by an officer on the street. It was a 2010 Dodge Ram, but it refused to stop. There was a brief police chase, with officers ending their pursuit once they learned that the suspect was the ex-girlfriend of the vehicle's owner. It was simply too dangerous to keep chasing her, and now that they knew who she was, they could arrest her later. But later came sooner than they thought. The police then received a call that the same woman had returned to the original boat launch in the truck, where she tried to run down her ex-boyfriend and kill him. Luckily for the ex, she didn't have very good aim. He managed to avoid being run over, and by the time the police arrived, the angry woman was already escaping. After yet another chase, the cops ended up pulling a PIT maneuver to immobilize her vehicle and make the arrest. The ex-girlfriend is now facing felony charges and will almost certainly be doing time behind bars. If not for the car chase, then for at least trying to kill her ex. Number 1. Immobilized and defenseless. Ex-girlfriend Zishi Wang was sentenced to spend 25 years and 6 months in jail for one of the most shocking incidents of domestic violence ever. It happened in 2019 when 23-year-old Shuyu Zhu went to Wang's apartment to pick up some of her belongings. The pair had been dating, but their relationship ended 4 months prior. But when Zhu went to pick up some stuff, everything went terribly wrong. Zhu was unexpectedly attacked by her angry ex, and in a bid to escape, she tried to climb over the balcony. She ended up slipping and falling 5 stories to the hard ground below. She landed face down on the side of a fence, then flipped onto the ground and began worming around in pain. While this was happening, Wang was staring down from the balcony, seemingly indifferent. But here's where the real brutality comes in. Wang then grabbed a kitchen knife, got into the elevator, went to the ground floor, and approached her ex-girlfriend. At this point, Zhao was immobilized and defenseless. There was nothing she could do, and her back appeared to be broken. But regardless, Wang hunched over and stabbed her 58 times. Over and over, she just kept stabbing. If the fall hadn't killed her, the 58 stab wounds certainly did. Wang will now be spending a minimum of 19 years locked up. According to the Daily Mail, she'll be eligible for parole in 2038. But good luck convincing anyone that you're not crazy after stabbing your defenseless ex almost 60 times. Thanks for watching! What's your craziest ex story? Let me know in the comments below. And remember to subscribe and come back soon for more wild videos. Bye!